Okay, so today I'm showing off my research for quarter one. Unfortunately, a lot of the things that I've done over the quarter can't really be shown visually, mainly because it's architecture and getting everything to work, like sound and rendering and things like that. But for now, I can show you just like a little bit of what I have so far. Um, uh, what my engine does is that you can hook up a joystick and it automatically detects if it's a Windows Xbox 360 layout, then you should be automatically hooked in. Um, you can move the camera around. Um, as you can see, the sprites actually stretch and things like that. And if you notice, there's a checkered texture. That just means that this what I'm showing is basically a texture that doesn't exist, so it fills in one automatically as a hey, like you're missing a texture instead of crashing. The physics engine is based on Box 2D, so if I press A, it falls and does everything that you need it to. And so it also has a sound engine based on Erklang. Um, what I really want to talk about is the way that the code is written, and even though you can't really see much by this demo, basically all the components like sound, rendering, input, and things like that are very expandable. So what you can do is basically, if you want to use, say, the native Windows API, you can. Simply, all you have to do is inherit from the abstract classes that are part of the engine, and you can build your own input manager. And so, like for instance, I have a GLFW input manager and a Windows manager, simply because I realized somewhere along the way that I couldn't have a GLFW manager simply because it didn't support like the bumpers in the back of the joystick, and so I had to go with the Windows native one. And so integrating that was actually very simple, simply because all I had to do is inherit from the classes, and um, it started to work. And so most of my research this quarter is actually setting up an engine that can be ported, or say more like bound into other languages. So it's written on C++, and then there is a engine front end, which is basically a bunch of C-like functions behind a namespace. So all you do is say, like, if when I'm moving things around, I say um, like camera get position, increment the position based on the joystick input, and then set the joystick input back. And everything works on IDs. So, like for instance, if I create a game object, I get an ID that's associated with it. And when I say game object 2D set position, all I have to do is pass in the x and y and the object ID. And the reason I did it this way is because it's just easier when you're binding into other languages to deal with integers and function calls. The reason for that is it's present in most languages. If I was to port pointers and things like that um, into say C sharp, then I have to go and kind of noodle around with their int pointer and things like that. And the same is true about a lot of other languages. And so, like Lua. Unfortunately, for this particular quarter, I didn't get that done. I started to create the bindings, and I kind of ran out of time. Um, but it basically, what I did was with the front end, the engine front end was, it defines a structure to bind into. So, like if I have, say, Lua and I have C sharp, they basically, their bindings will look the same because I've already created an interface for them to tap into that's very simple and straightforward. Um, Out of the things that are done so far, I would say physics bodies and things like that are all swappable, so I can swap out box 2D for say like Farseer. Um, I can swap out the sound engine very simply, very easily. Renderer, there's a timer built in. Um, Everything is based on GLFW glue, but if you were to say swap in the renderer for DirectX, that's also very possible, and something I might actually explore the next quarter. Most of what I said now has been documented in the documentation that I provided, so please have a read through that and have a look through the code. Also, one thing to mention is that the build process for this project is fairly complicated, mainly because everything is split into projects. So, for instance, like the input manager is its own project, the sound is its own project, the box 2D, and so it comes down to about like 10 to 15 projects. I didn't actually count them through. But basically it's split into two solutions, and the Lua solution will first build the engine solution and then copy over the lib files, copy over the header files, and then start its own build process. If you want to see this particular demo, you're going to have to go into the engine solution, and for the engine front end, just change the project type to a runnable exe from a lib file. Engine front end is actually just a massive lib file comprising all the other libs together. So, have a good day, and see you soon.